You would never expect North Carolina to come up during discussions about black wealth in America, but guess what? That's a mistake. Long before tech booms and luxury condos, black families here were quietly building power, reshaping cities, and controlling who got hired. But who are these not-so-popular people? Let's take you to a jaw-dropping countdown of the 8 richest black families in North Carolina, starting with a dynasty whose story will leave you speechless. Number 8. The Suggs family, Daniel C. Suggs. Let's start this list by breaking a myth real quick. Black wealth in North Carolina didn't suddenly appear in the last few decades, and it didn't arrive with tech parks or luxury condos either. In fact, one of the richest black families in the state built their fortune when owning land, as a black man was not just rare, it was downright dangerous. Daniel C. Suggs was operating in a completely different era, and he still managed to pull off something almost unbelievable. In the early 1900s, he was openly referred to as the richest Negro in North Carolina. That wasn't a nickname meant to flatter, but a statement of fact. When Suggs passed away in the 1920s, his estate was valued at around $1.28 million. In today's money, that's easily north of $20 million. And here's the part that makes this story hit harder. Almost all of that wealth came from land. Not factories, not stock portfolios, not flashy businesses. It was land. Suggs built his holdings primarily across Wilson and Greensboro, 2 North Carolina cities that quietly mattered way more than they looked at the time. Wilson sat right along key railroad routes and thrived during the tobacco boom. Greensboro became a manufacturing and textile hub that would later explode in importance. Suggs didn't need a crystal ball, he just understood movement, commerce, and patience. Now here's the part people tend to gloss over. Holding onto land as a black man in Jim Crow, North Carolina, wasn't just about buying it, it was about defending it. Deeds got challenged, taxes got manipulated, properties mysteriously changed hands, and yet Suggs managed to keep his holdings intact across generations, allowing that wealth to quietly appreciate while the rest of the world changed around it. This is slow, defensive wealth, the kind that doesn't trend on social media but survives wars, depressions, and economic crashes. While modern startups burn hot and fast, Suggs-style wealth just waits, and waits, and wins. Some of the black families in the region are still benefiting from real estate decisions made back in the day. But if you think land ownership is impressive, wait until you see the family that literally builds the places where everyone spends their money. Number 7. The Russell Construction family. You might not recognize the Russell Construction name, but honestly, that's part of why they're so effective. This family represents a kind of wealth that thrives in the background, quietly stacking wins while everyone else chases attention. Russell Construction is a multi-generational, family-run operation that figured out early on that retail construction is one of the most overlooked money printers in America. Instead of chasing flashy towers or headline-grabbing projects, they specialized in something far more reliable, building and fitting out retail spaces for national chains. And here's why that matters. Retail brands hate risk. Once a company finds a contractor who delivers on time, on budget, and without drama, they don't go shopping for someone new, they stick. That turns one contract into dozens, then hundreds, spread across years and across states. Rooted in North Carolina, the Russell family grew right alongside the state's suburban expansion. As malls, shopping centers, and big-box retailers spread across Charlotte and beyond, Russell Construction became part of the infrastructure that made modern retail possible. You've probably walked through one of their projects, grabbed something off the shelf, and never once thought about who built the place. Now here's where the wealth really compounds. It's not just the construction fees, it's the relationships. Long-term partnerships with national retailers create predictable, recurring cash flow. Even when the economy slows down, stores still need renovations, updates, and new fixtures. That makes this kind of business surprisingly recession-resistant. There's also a major difference between construction wealth and development wealth. Developers gamble on appreciation. Will this land be worth more later? Construction firms get paid for execution. Cash comes in. Overhead stays manageable. Profits get reinvested. It's less glamorous, but it's incredibly stable. Families like the Russells don't build monuments. They build systems, and systems are what last. Now, from constructing sophisticated retail chains, we move to a family that figured out how to build entire stadiums. Number 6. The Everett family, Donovan Everett. If you've ever watched a packed Charlotte Hornets game and thought, wow, this place is massive, here's a fun twist. There's a black family from North Carolina whose fingerprints are literally embedded in that concrete. The Everett family didn't just work on the Spectrum Center renovation. They led a $215 million transformation of one of the most visible sports arenas in the state. That's not a side project. That's legacy-level construction. The story starts far away from NBA spotlights in Beaufort, North Carolina, where Donovan Everett learned the construction trade the old-school way, watching his father work, understanding materials, timing, and trust before spreadsheets and contracts ever entered the picture. That early exposure mattered. After sharpening his skills and earning a business degree from NC State, Donovan didn't rush into flashy expansion. Instead, he launched D.A. Everett Construction Group in Raleigh in 2013, quietly building credibility one contract at a time. And here's where things accelerate. As North Carolina's cities started growing faster than anyone expected, Everett positioned his firm right in the middle of that momentum. The company eventually moved its headquarters to Charlotte, where the scale of opportunity matched their ambition. From Bojangles Coliseum to Charlotte Mecklenburg police facilities, public schools, healthcare buildings, and industrial sites, the Everetts became the go-to name when the project had to be done right. By 2022, D.A. Everett Construction Group ranked as Charlotte's top black-owned construction firm by revenue, and that didn't happen by accident. This wasn't speculative development or risky flipping. This was disciplined, relationship-driven contracting, the kind that wins repeat business and survives downturns. The Spectrum Center deal alone was described as a once-in-a-lifetime contract for a local firm, and they delivered. Apart from their massive scale, what makes the Everett family stand out is the mentorship. They actively pull other North Carolina contractors into bigger conversations, proving construction is not only a job, but also a generational fortress if you know how to protect it. But while they build the arenas where cities gather, the next family controls what happens before people ever step outside. Number 5. The Bruce family, Everett Bruce and Krista. Walk into Personal Treasures Beauty Supply in Greensboro, and you'll feel it immediately. This isn't a store chasing trends. This is a place that knows black hair. That difference matters, and it's exactly why the Bruce family has thrived for over a decade in a space where big chains keep trying and failing to take over. At the center of it all is Everett Bruce, who founded the business with a simple but powerful idea. If you serve the community properly, loyalty becomes automatic. No gimmicks, no guessing. Just deep knowledge of black hair and skin paired with consistency. Over time, that approach turned Personal Treasures into one of the most respected black-owned beauty supply hubs in the Piedmont Triad. Then came the generational handoff. And this is where the story gets fun. Everett's granddaughter, Krista Bruce, stepped in and added a modern edge without disrupting the foundation. Social media presence, trend awareness, customer engagement that feels conversational, not transactional. Watching the two work together is almost a masterclass in balance. Everett handling operations and supplier relationships, Krista reading the room and the culture in real time. And here's the part most people miss. The real money in black beauty isn't just the products, it's the relationships. Stylists from Winston-Salem, Kernersville, and Greensboro keep coming back because they trust the advice, the inventory, and the consistency. Add in salon services and you've got a vertically aligned ecosystem. Product, service, and community reinforcement all feeding each other. While national chains rely on scale, the Bruces rely on credibility. Customers know when someone actually understands their hair and when someone's just stocking shelves. That trust creates repeat business that outlasts trends, algorithms, and influencer cycles. And it proves that black beauty, when controlled locally, can resist being swallowed by corporate sameness. Next up, we have a family whose wealth story starts even earlier, before zoning laws, before development plans, and before anyone thought the land itself would become the prize. Number 4. The Robert L. Johnson family, RLJ Companies. Most people still talk about Robert L. Johnson as if his story ended with bet. And I get it. Building the first major black-owned cable network and selling it for billions is a hard chapter to top. But if you stop there, you miss the part where Johnson quietly proves he wasn't just a media visionary. He was a disciplined capital allocator. When BET sold to Viacom for around $3 billion, Johnson didn't rush to build another flashy media empire or chase headlines. Instead, he did something that surprised a lot of people. He stepped back, looked at where money actually behaves well over decades, and started buying assets that most people ignore because they're, frankly, boring. Hotels, auto dealerships, rentals, hospitality portfolios. The kinds of businesses people don't brag about at dinner parties, but rely on every single day. Through RLJ companies, Johnson built one of the largest black-owned hotel portfolios in the United States, alongside a substantial footprint in auto dealerships and related automotive services. This wasn't about making noise, it was about stacking predictable income streams that didn't depend on trends, algorithms, or attention cycles. North Carolina, especially Charlotte, played a quiet but important role in this phase of his career. Charlotte's steady flow of business travelers, corporate relocations, and banking traffic made it an ideal proving ground for hospitality investments. The city doesn't boom and bust the way flashier markets do. It grows steadily. That stability made it perfect for testing long-term asset strategies before scaling nationally. Here's the part that really matters. Johnson exited media at almost the exact right moment. Traditional television advertising was peaking. Cable was about to get disrupted. Meanwhile, real estate and auto dealerships kept doing what they've always done, generating cash flow regardless of what's trending. There's a reason you see a similar pivot later in Tyler Perry's career. Early-stage visibility builds capital. Late-stage discipline preserves it. Johnson chose preservation over applause, and that choice compounded. What's also worth noting is how intentionally low-profile this phase of his wealth became. You don't hear about RLJ the way you hear about entertainment empires. But that's by design. Johnson didn't need to be visible to be powerful. His assets worked quietly, throwing off income year after year. In a world obsessed with attention, Robert L. Johnson made the ultimate grown-up move. He traded spotlight for stability and ended up richer for it. In short, Johnson mastered assets, but the next family on our list did something even more impressive. They mastered volume. Number 3. The McFarland family. McFarland Construction. The McFarland family story doesn't start with a windfall or a lucky break. It starts the way most durable business stories do, with skill, repetition, and a reputation that slowly snowballed into something much bigger. What began as a family-founded construction operation eventually grew into one of Charlotte's largest black-owned contracting firms. And the growth wasn't loud. There were no viral moments or sudden leaps. It came from doing the same thing, extremely well, for a long time. Based in Charlotte, the McFarlands became deeply woven into the city's expansion. As Uptown developed and North Carolina's population surged, their firm took on commercial projects that mattered: retail spaces, office buildings, industrial sites. These weren't vanity projects. They were functional, deadline-driven builds for clients who couldn't afford mistakes. And that's where construction firms like this separate themselves from trend-driven businesses. In construction, trust is everything. If you finish on time and on budget, you get called again. If you mess up, you don't. There's no algorithm to hide behind. As Charlotte grew, so did the demand for reliable contractors. And once the McFarland name became associated with consistency, it started carrying real weight. Developers remembered them, corporations recommended them, municipal partners trusted them. That's how backlogs form. And backlogs are what keep construction firms alive through economic cycles. This is why construction businesses often outlast tech startups. Startups burn cash chasing growth. Construction firms grow because work keeps coming. Contracts get signed months or even years in advance. That predictability creates stability, and stability creates generational opportunity. There's also something quietly powerful about having your name attached to buildings. It does something intangible. It signals credibility before you even speak. Over time, that reputation becomes its own asset, opening doors that money alone can't. The McFarlands didn't just scale a business, they scaled trust. And in an industry where delays cost millions and reputations are fragile, that trust became their most valuable currency. And now, here comes a family that sells what everyone needs. Number 2. The Mills family, Damian Mills. If there's one thing the Mills family figured out early, it's this: you don't need to invent the future if you can control access to something people already need. And in North Carolina, few things are more reliable than cars. Damian Mills didn't start with an empire. He started with a single Ford dealership in the Charlotte area back in the early 2000s. At the time, it didn't look like the beginning of anything historic, just another dealership in a competitive market. But what set Mills apart wasn't branding or flash, it was scale discipline. He understood that dealerships aren't about hype. They're about volume, location, and repetition. Over time, that one dealership turned into Mills Automotive Group, now spanning more than a dozen dealerships across North Carolina, South Carolina, and beyond. Ford, Chrysler, Nissan, Toyota. This wasn't about loyalty to one brand. It was about owning real estate on high-traffic corridors and becoming the default option for entire regions. Some years, Mills expanded at a pace that made industry insiders pause. At one point, the group reportedly acquired over a dozen dealerships in a single year. That's not normal. That's aggressive, capital-heavy, and incredibly hard to pull off. North Carolina was the perfect base for this kind of growth. Charlotte's rapid population increase, its sprawl, and its dependence on cars created captive demand. People commute, families expand, cars wear out. And once you own multiple lots in a region, you start benefiting from something subtle but powerful: internal gravity. Inventory moves between locations. Advertising costs drop. Financing relationships deepen. Here's the part that really explains the wealth. Dealerships don't just sell cars. They sell financing, maintenance, trade-ins, repeat business. One customer might generate revenue for a decade. Multiply that by thousands, and suddenly you're not running a dealership. You're running a machine. The Mills family kept this operation family-centered, with relatives involved in management and strategy. That matters more than it sounds. It keeps decision-making tight and incentives aligned. The result is an auto empire that consistently ranks among the largest Black-owned dealership groups in the country. The Mills never chased trends. They controlled lots. And in the auto business, that's how real money gets made. But as strategically impressive and financially astounding their wealth story is, it still doesn't come close to the family sitting at the top of this list. A family that mastered something even bigger: the workforce itself. Number 1. The Howroyd family, Janice Bryant Howroyd. This is the one that makes you stop and rethink how power actually works. When Janice Bryant Howroyd began her journey, she didn't have a large capital or connections, and most certainly didn't have a famous last name. She started with only $1,500, a one-woman temp agency, and a willingness to do work most people overlooked. And somehow, from that beginning, she managed to build one of the most influential Black-owned business empires in the world. Howroyd was born and raised in Tarboro, North Carolina, and later attended North Carolina Agricultural and Technical State University, one of the state's most important HBCUs. That background matters because it shaped how she saw opportunity. When she launched Act-Own Group in 1978, staffing wasn't glamorous, it wasn't aspirational, but it was essential. Every company needs people, and whoever controls hiring quietly controls access. What began as a small staffing firm grew into a global workforce solutions powerhouse, operating across dozens of states and multiple countries. Act-Own now touches everything from temporary staffing to payroll, recruitment, and workforce management. This isn't just a business, it's infrastructure. Millions of people have gotten jobs through systems her company built. North Carolina remains a core part of this story. From her Tarboro roots to her influence across the Raleigh-Durham corridor, Howroyd has consistently reinvested in the state through education, mentorship, and job creation. The Triangle's tech and corporate growth didn't happen in a vacuum. It needed talent pipelines. Act-Own helped supply them. What makes this family different is how quietly enormous the impact is. Staffing doesn't show up on Forbes covers the way tech does, but it touches every industry: healthcare, tech, manufacturing, government. When the economy shifts, staffing firms are among the first to feel it and the first to adapt. Janice Howroyd became one of the wealthiest self-made Black women in America, not by chasing flash, but by building systems. Her son and family members now help run the enterprise, turning it into a true dynasty. This is something we can call a cradle-to-career influence, from first job to executive placement. And once you see that, it's hard to unsee it. And that's exactly why the Howroyds sit at number 1. So these were the 8 richest Black families in North Carolina. Which one fascinated you the most? Let us know in the comments, and for more such interesting peeks into the lives of rich, take a look at the channel.